Brace yourself because we're getting ready for another timeline jump. We've just completed a very big collective timeline shift, and we are now in preparation phase for the next one. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to talk about today. Stay tuned because there's information that's going to make your life make sense to you, and I mean that. Let's start with why. Why such rapid fire timeline jumps? I mean, what could be causing this? Well, you're causing these rapid fire timeline jumps, because what a timeline jump is you taking a quantum shift. And when there's enough of us taking that quantum shift and sitting in soul agreement to do it together, we shift the entire timeline, which means we'll end up picking up the stragglers. We'll end up picking up those who aren't yet fully embodying their higher frequency truth, which is why you feel heavy sometimes, and why you feel tired sometimes, and why you feel like you can't go on sometimes, but I promise you can. Preceding a timeline jump, there's the great stopping point. And every timeline jump is going to be different, but various timeline jumps have occurred, and we've, to varying degrees, felt the same thing just before a timeline jump, and that is stop. There's a cosmic stop. And actually, it's more a pause, but when you're in it, it doesn't feel like a pause. It feels like my life has come to a stop. Something's going to happen for you. Illness, an emotional upset, a circumstance, or just something within you that says, no, I cannot carry on the way that it was. That's the cosmic stop. Sometimes in that cosmic stop, it feels like you're in labor because there's the sense of anticipation. There's the sense of, could we just do this already? But you kind of know it's not yet time, but the looming sense of anticipation is so strong, so powerful. You're almost waiting for something to happen. Don't preempt anything. Learn from the master who's recently put out a newsletter, and it'll be a blog post on my website later on about how not to push reality. The cosmic stop that we're in right now, it feels, when you hit it, it feels like something's happened that makes your world stop. But in reality, it's not your world that stopped. It is you that has stopped, and the world carries on spinning. So the cosmic stop is that. It's like surreal. It's like you are in suspended animation. Everything's carrying on around you that you want to tap the person next to you and say, excuse me, can you not see? And maybe they can't, because there's a lot of unconscious people on the planet right now. The cosmic stop is you becoming aware of the unreality of reality. It's you becoming aware of the realness of you, the authenticity of you. So the cosmic stop shifts you out of the external world, and it plummets you. And I use that word on purpose, plummets you into your internal world, because it can feel like everything's falling apart, or that you are in some way that you're falling downwards. You're not. You're falling into you. And sometimes when that happens, it feels like life is falling apart, and it's not, but it feels that way because the false matrix is falling apart. And ultimately, if you think of it like this, the false matrix was a broadcast signal. And I've got a video up on my channel called Galactic Wars, where I explain this phenomenon in a lot more detail about how the false matrix was a broadcast signal that was collapsed already, that's happened. And I've had people in my comment section say, but Kerry, you always talk about the external broadcast signal, yet you say it was taken down. Yes, but in that same video, I also said to you, as much as the external broadcast signal that kept the false matrix on repeat, bombarding us from the external, as much as that's been taken down, we still have to deconstruct all of that programming from within us. We still have to take down the broadcast signal that got impatterned into us, embodied into our cellular memory. So think of that broadcast signal of the false matrix as a mesh-like, net-like pattern, a template. And your body began to conform to the template of the false matrix, which means that you began to act like something other than you. That's called the false self. It's called the ego. And it's why something in you knew Something's wrong in this life, something's off, something's weird, and not always knowing what it is, but that was the something. The something was the template that you were embodying didn't harmonize with the soul frequency that you are. So you were out of key and out of sync with your world. The process of ascension is us bringing that all back online. And it takes rapid fire timeline jumps in order for that to happen. So a timeline jump is when you shift so radically, so quickly, so fully, so properly that the brain can't keep track of time and time stops being linear. That's a timeline jump. There's a video on my channel, I think it's about 2 videos back, called exactly that, timeline jump, where I'm going to give you a little bit more information in that video so you can go and watch that if you want to. When you walk through a timeline jump, as much as it sounds cool, it sounds, oh, great, elevation is happening, forward shift is happening, forward movement is happening. It's that time just before the jump, which is where we are now. It's the time just before the jump that's the most disconcerting, that's the most challenging, that's the most difficult to be in, because it's here that you think something's gone wrong. It's here that you think something's fallen apart. And remember, yes, something has fallen apart. It's the false matrix broadcast signal that was imprinted into your cellular matrix that is falling apart. Don't mistake that for you. You are what is emerging. You are what is coming online. So, of course, I know you're going to ask me this question called when? When? It's the famous question. When I talk about ascension, people say, when is ascension? When I talk about a timeline shift, it's natural. You're going to ask me, when is the timeline shift going to take place? Now, at the time of me releasing this is the 1st of December 2023. Please bear in mind that we're going to have collective timeline jumps every couple of weeks, and stay tuned because I'm still going to tell you why it's happening so quickly. We're going to have timeline jumps every couple of weeks. This particular one that we're in right now happens, I'm going to give you a broad time span, somewhere over the next 6 weeks, which means anywhere from December 2023 to the middle of January. That's the collective. So collectively, we have 6 weeks to undertake this timeline jump. There's going to be another one happening in February, and I'm going to fill you in on the February one because a lot of January is going to be preparation for the big February jump. It's going to be glorious. But I said to you, and I've dropped this carrot in front of you, and I've said, I'm going to make your life make a whole lot more sense to you when you understand why we're having such rapid fire timeline jumps. In 2012, it was a very big event that happened. And you would have woken up like it was just another day. But in 2012, many light workers, many star seeds, many spiritual warriors from the future came into what they would call their past, which was 2012. And many of them were from thousands of years in the future. So can you imagine that, a very evolved being, higher frequency being, coming back in time into 2012. And as they do come back in time into 2012, it feels awful. It feels like a downgrade. It feels like something's gone badly, badly wrong. It feels like you're lost and anxiety happens. So you, if you're one of those future selves that came into that 2012 insertion point, you were inserted, or not you were inserted, you chose, because this can only happen with your soul's consent, to come back in time into that 2012 timeline so that you could elevate your consciousness. And in elevating your consciousness, remember what I said in the beginning of this video, we kind of pick up the tail end. So as you elevate your consciousness, the tail end of the ascension timeline gets picked up. And it allows humanity to ascend much further, much faster. The reason that we did this is because we needed help. The reason that we came from the future, and I think many of you will have that sense. Maybe you've had dreams of another time. Maybe you've had dreams of another place. I used to have dreams, and I always thought they were the past. I realize now that they're the future. I used to have dreams of Earth, planet Earth, and I would talk to my husband about it, and I said, oh, it's so beautiful. I would always remember this place in the past before civilization. That's what I said to him. I said, I remember before pre-civilization. Oh my God, it was beautiful. Not a road, not a car. And yeah, there were houses, but it was like everything was built in the most harmonious way, and there were no material. Life wasn't about consumerism. Life was about tribal living and about community, and it was beautiful, less populated, but it was planet Earth. The relationship to nature and to the animals, and over time I've come to realize that's not the past, that's the future. So maybe you've had dreams of a future time. Maybe you just have a sense of I can't wait for the future, or maybe you've got a sense of I want to go home. There's this feeling like you belong elsewhere. So these are the future ones that came into their past and reinserted themselves into their own past, but brought with them more of their own higher consciousness so that we could win Ascension. Many videos on my channel, is a whole playlist that talk about Ascension. So go watch those, because it's going to give you a much broader perspective on what we're actually doing here and what Ascension actually entails. It's a very magical cosmic event. It's definitely not limited to you and to your body and to Earth. It's an entire cosmic event, and you're a part of it. But many of you came from the future to facilitate this. And these timeline jumps are steps towards the true self that you remember being. These timeline jumps are that future self calling you, that entered in 2012, calling you back home, calling you back to yourself, calling you back to your higher truth. So it's kind of, almost think of it as the future drawing you like a vacuum. And there's something in you now that's answering. These, that we call this your future self, but these people that are the future selves, these beings that are the future selves, are surrounded by legions, absolute legions of cosmic support, angelic beings, galactic beings, and they're all calling you home. And no, that does not mean to another literal time. That means to the frequency of that self, because that's when you're going to feel like you're you and you're home again. That's when life makes sense again, when you embody any time. Could be 2012, could be the year 3000, could be the year 1000. You will feel home, and you'll feel like you're in the right place at the right time, and you're in the right body, because finally your template aligns. So the timeline jumps are caused by two things. Number one, us here in what we call the present time, which is certainly not the present, it's actually the past, but it's caused by us and our future selves and the legion working with them, calling us back to ourselves. You've got to think of it like this. You could have looked at Ascension and known something, and that was, there's no ways we're going to make it. There's no ways. Humanity is not ready. We weren't. We weren't. That's why we inserted ourselves in 2012 to speed things up. These timeline jumps, which is when we move faster than what the brain can comprehend, causes time to stop feeling linear anymore, causes us to feel discombobulated, but actually it's just eroding and breaking down the many layers of the false matrix. One last thing I want to tell you, it's also an important point, and that is when you are at this point just before the timeline jump, it feels like you're in a catapult that's being pulled back. So can you imagine the squeaking catapult? It's everything is pulling you back. So if you feel that feeling like I can't move forward, if you feel that feeling like I'm in the wrong place, I must be stuck, pause. Sleep more, seriously. Just stop, just surrender. Guided meditation is your friend. Join my online community, the Plasma Light Tribe, where I can teach you step by step, week by week, how to step into deeper parts of your own truth, deeper parts of your own self, deeper ability to surrender, because that's what's needed right now. Work with the universe, not against it. And that feeling of being pulled back into the cosmic catapult is only going to launch you forward, further. There's a video I'm going to leave for you here. It's called The Power of Your Love. It's about 4.5 minutes long. I recorded this in one of my Plasma live calls. It was an online live call, so perhaps the audio is not so great. The visuals also not so great, but go ahead and listen to it, even if you listen with your eyes closed, because there's a message in those 4.5 minutes for you about the power of your love. From my heart all the way to yours, I hope you feel it. Lots of love, everyone. Bye-bye for now.